The city was quiet on a late summer evening, the kind of silence that comes when people are busy with their ordinary lives. Cars moved slowly along the streets, children played in small parks, and lights began to glow in tall buildings. Looked normal, peaceful, and safe. But above the clouds, something was moving. Something huge, silent, and hidden. First, no one noticed. The stars seemed to blink. The moonlight looked dimmer, and then a shadow spread across the sky. People looked up. Some thought it was just a storm cloud. Some thought it was the beginning of rain. But soon fear filled their hearts. The shadow was too big, too round, too sharp. It was not a cloud. It was a ship. The alien ship was massive, larger than any human building, larger than any airplane ever made. It moved with no sound, no smoke, no flame. The ground shook slightly as it lowered itself above the city. Windows rattled, alarms went off in cars, and dogs began barking wildly. The people of Earth had seen many strange things on their screens, in movies and in stories. But no one had seen something this real, this close. Crowds gathered in open places. Phones were lifted. Cameras pointed to the sky. Soldiers were called. Helicopters rose into the air but quickly stopped as strange waves of energy blocked their path. The ship opened from its center, and a beam of light brighter than the sun touched the ground. The light was not hot, not burning, but powerful and commanding. It was like the hand of the heavens had reached down. From the beam, tall figures began to walk out. They were not men. They were not machines. They were women, but unlike any women humans had ever seen. They were giants compared to humans. Standing more than 7 feet tall, their bodies strong, their movements graceful, their faces sharp and beautiful. Their skin shimmered with faint golden patterns, their eyes glowed like fire, and their hair moved like waves in the wind. These were the Amazons of the stars, warriors from another world, protectors of an empire humans could not yet imagine. The people fell into silence. Even the crying children stopped. The Amazons walked forward with steps that shook the earth. Their armor shone with alien steel, marked with ancient signs. Their weapons were not guns, not swords, but tools of light. Glowing with energy, one Amazon stepped ahead. She was taller than the rest, her golden armor brighter, her eyes sharper. Raised her hand and her voice rang out, clear and strong. But it was not in a strange language. It was in English, perfectly spoken, as if she had lived among humans. People of Earth, she declared, her voice echoing across the city. We are the daughters of the eternal flame, the Amazons of the galaxy. We have searched across stars, across worlds, across time itself. Today, we have come for one purpose. We have come to choose the strongest male of your kind. His genes will decide the future. His blood will carry the legacy of strength. He will be the father of the next warrior generation. Shock spread across the crowd. People gasped, shouted, whispered to one another. Some laughed nervously, thinking it was a trick. Some screamed and ran. Some simply stood frozen, unable to believe what they heard. The Amazon leader continued, her voice like thunder, do not fear. We do not come to destroy. We do not come to conquer, come to choose. Among billions of humans, only one is worthy. Our search is complete. He is here. The people looked at one another in confusion. Who could it be? A scientist? King, a famous soldier, an athlete, or maybe some hidden genius living in secret. The Amazons formed a circle around their leader. A second beam of light came from the ship above. A figure began to rise in the center of the light. At first no one could see clearly, but as the glow faded, a man stood there. He was not dressed like a hero. He wore simple clothes, a jacket, and boots. His face was calm, but serious. He looked strong, but not like a giant bodybuilder. His hair was dark, his eyes steady. He looked like an ordinary man who had walked through many storms in life and survived. The Amazons bowed their heads. To him, shocking the crowd even more, the leader spoke again. This is the chosen one. His spirit is unbroken. His courage is endless. His strength is not in muscle alone. He carries the strongest genes in the galaxy. Gasps filled the air. People shouted in disbelief. The soldiers, watching, were stunned. Why him? Why this man? The man himself looked around, confused. His name was David. He had been a soldier once, a fighter in wars no one wanted to remember. He had seen friends fall, he had carried scars on his body and soul, but he never thought of himself as special. Now, all eyes were on him. The people of Earth were staring at him. The Amazons were waiting for him. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. David took a deep breath, could feel the weight of the moment, could feel the danger, the mystery, the power. He whispered softly to himself, "Why me?" The Amazon leader looked at him, her golden eyes piercing into his soul. She answered as if she heard his whisper, "'Cause strength is not only in the body, it is in the will to fight, to endure, to protect. You are more than you believe. You are what we need." The crowd erupted with noise. Some cheered, some shouted in anger, some begged him not to go. The world was in chaos, but the decision was already made. The Amazons had chosen. The summoning was complete. David's life and the fate of Earth had just changed forever. The beam of light faded, but the silence in the city did not. Millions of eyes were fixed on the man who had been lifted into the center of the Amazon circle. His name was David Hale. To the people of Earth, he looked ordinary to ordinary. For such a grand moment, he was in his early 30s, broad-shouldered but not massive. His brown jacket was old, his boots covered with dust, and his face carried the marks of many battles, scars that told quiet stories. If he walked down the street on any other day, no one would even turn their head. But now, in front of the towering Amazons and the blazing beam from the alien ship, David looked like the center of the universe. The Amazon leader stepped closer. To him, she was tall, majestic, her golden armor glowing under the strange light. Her presence made even the bravest soldiers lower their eyes. She looked at David as if she had been waiting her whole life for this moment. "David Hale of Earth," she said, her voice echoing across the city, "You are the chosen one. Among billions of humans, your spirit has proven strongest. Your genes carry what our future requires." David blinked in disbelief. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He felt the crowd's eyes on him. He felt their judgment there. Confusion. He heard whispers spreading like fire. "Why him? Doesn't even look strong. What makes him special?" David finally found his voice. "You must be mistaken," he said, his tone firm but low. "I'm just a soldier, a man who tried to survive. I'm not the strongest. I'm not the Amazon leader," raised her hand, cutting him off. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. "Strength is not only in muscle. It is in the will that does not break. You faced death and did not run. You have lost everything and still stood. You were not chosen by accident. You are chosen by destiny." Her words rang through the crowd, but not everyone believed. A group of Earth soldiers stepped forward, their rifles shaking in their hands. Their commander shouted, "This is nonsense. We will not allow you to take one of our men like property." For a brief moment, tension filled the air. The Amazons turned their heads toward the soldiers, their glowing weapons ready to strike. The humans prepared to defend. The entire world stood on the edge of disaster. But David raised his hand. Voice calm and heavy cut through the chaos. "Stand down," he said to the human soldiers. "Don't fight. Not now." The commander hesitated, then slowly lowered his weapon. The soldiers followed. The crowd murmured. Something about David's tone carried authority, as if he had spoken with the weight of truth. The Amazon leader studied him for a moment longer. Then she gave a slow nod. "Yes, you are truly the one." Two Amazons stepped forward and placed their hands on David's shoulders, did not resist, but his heart pounded inside his chest. His mind flashed with memories, dusty battlefields, the screams of war, the faces of his fallen brothers. He remembered nights when he sat alone, wondering why he was still alive when better men had died. He had always believed survival was just luck. But now, these aliens, these powerful women from the stars, were telling him survival was something more. David was led toward the beam of light. The ground shook again as the alien ship hummed above. The people cried out, some begging. him to refuse some demanding answers. But David did not look back. His eyes stayed forward, his thoughts racing. As he reached the edge of the beam, the Amazon leader spoke again. "You are not property, David Hale. You are not our servant. You are our future. But to prove it, you must endure trials that no other human has faced. Only then will your place among us be sealed." David stopped, turned his head slightly, meeting her gaze. His voice was steady now. "And if I fail?" The leader's golden eyes narrowed. "Then you die." The words echoed like a hammer strike. The crowd gasped. But David did not flinch. He had faced death before. He had lived through hopeless battles. He had carried loss heavier than any weapon. For him, the idea of death was not strange. What frightened him was the unknown future waiting inside that ship. Still, he gave a small nod. "Then let's see if I survive again." The beam of light grew brighter, wrapping around him. The ground fell away as his body lifted into the air. The crowd below shouted his name, some in fear, some in anger, some in awe. David felt the pull of the alien ship, the hum of its strange energy. As he rose higher, he saw the world beneath him, the streets, the buildings, the faces of thousands staring up. For the first time, he realized he was leaving not just a city, but an entire planet. He was being taken into a story larger than anything he had imagined. The Amazons followed, him into the light, their armor glowing like burning stars. The ship swallowed them, and the beam vanished. The sky returned to silence. The city was left in shock. News spread across the world in minutes. Screens everywhere showed the footage. A man chosen by alien warriors, taken into the stars. Named David Hale was on every tongue. Some called him a hero, some called him a prisoner, some called him a savior. But David himself, inside the ship, sat in silence. His heart beat slowly, his thoughts heavy. He had been chosen, but he did not yet know why. He was the strongest genes in the galaxy, yet he had never believed in his own worth. As the ship carried him away from Earth, David closed his eyes. He whispered to himself, not in fear, but in quiet resolve. "If I must face trials, I will face them. If I must die, I will die. But I will not bow. I will not break." The Amazons watched him from the shadows of the ship. Some looked at him with doubt, others with admiration. The leader's eyes glowed brighter than ever. She knew this human was different. He was not only chosen, he was dangerous. The journey of the chosen one had just begun. The ship of the Amazons cut through the black ocean of space like a blade of light. Inside, David Hale sat quietly, surrounded by warriors taller and stronger than him. Their golden armor gleamed in the strange glow of the ship's walls. None of them spoke. Only the hum of alien engines filled the silence. David's mind was heavy with questions. Why him? What kind of trials did they mean? And what would happen if he failed? He kept his face calm, but inside his heart was pounding. Like a drum, the Amazon leader, the one who had spoken for all, finally approached. Her name was revealed to him now, Serenia, High Warlord of the Amazon clans. Her voice was deep but calm, carrying both authority and mystery. "You are leaving your world, David Hale," she said, "and soon you will face our trials. If you succeed, you will stand as equal among us. If you fail, your bloodline ends here." David looked straight into her glowing eyes. "What kind of trials?" he asked. Serenia did not smile. "Trials of spirit, of body, and of will. We do not measure strength by muscle alone. Many alien males have come before you. All failed. All died." The words were cold, heavy, and final. But David did not flinch. He had seen enough death to know that fear was useless. Instead, he only asked, "When do we begin?" Serenia studied him for a moment, then turned away. Soon, arrival on the Amazon world. Hours later, the ship descended upon a world that looked like something from myth. Towers, carved from shining stone, stretched into the skies. Vast forests of silver-leaved trees swayed under twin suns. Rivers of glowing water ran across wide valleys, and statues of warrior queens stood like giants across the land. David stepped out of the ship, the Amazons forming a circle around him. Crowds of their people gathered, watching in silence. Were women, tall and strong, their eyes sharp, their faces proud. He saw no men anywhere. Whispers rose through the crowd. Human male. Chosen, too small, too weak. He will not last a single trial. David ignored the whispers. He walked steadily, his boots sinking slightly into the strange ground. Serenia led him to a massive arena carved into the side of a mountain. Fire burned in great braziers. Sound of drums echoed through the air. At the center of the arena stood 3 stone gates. Each one was marked with glowing runes. Serenia lifted her hand toward them. "These are the trials of the Amazon," she announced. "The gate of courage, the gate of endurance, the gate of loyalty. To pass is to prove you are worthy. To fail is to die." The crowd roared, their voices like thunder. David's chest tightened, but his face showed no fear. The gate of courage, the first gate, opened with a rumble, releasing a cloud of golden dust. David stepped inside. The ground shook beneath him. From the shadows, creatures emerged. Beasts unlike anything on earth. They had 6 legs, sharp fangs, and scales that shimmered like steel. Their roars shook the walls. The crowd watching from above cheered. The Amazons expected the human to scream, to run, to beg for mercy, but David stood his ground. He picked up a spear that lay on the ground, primitive compared to the weapons of the Amazons, but solid in his hands. The first beast charged. David rolled to the side, striking at its neck. The spear cut deep. The beast screamed, thrashing wildly, but David did not stop. He stabbed again and again until it fell silent. The second and third beasts came at once. David's muscles burned, his breath grew heavy, but he kept moving. He fought with desperation, not elegance, but every strike came from pure will. Minutes later, the arena floor was stained with alien blood. David stood in the center, breathing hard but alive. The crowd was silent. Even Serena's eyes widened slightly. "He has passed the gate of courage," she declared. The gate of endurance, the second gate, opened. Inside was no beast, no weapon, no enemy. Instead, it was a chamber filled with crushing gravity. David felt it the moment he stepped in. His body doubled in weight, then tripled. Every step was like lifting mountains. Sweat poured down his face, his legs shook, and his arms felt like lead. The chamber stretched endlessly forward, a path of glowing stones leading to the exit. The Amazons watched from above. Many had failed here before. Males of other species had collapsed, bones broken, bodies crushed, but David kept moving. One step, another. His body screamed in pain, but his mind whispered the words he had lived by in war. One more step. Just one more. Minutes felt like hours. His knees buckled, his vision blurred, but still he dragged himself forward. At last, with a roar from deep inside his chest, he threw himself onto the final glowing stone. The chamber's weight lifted, and he collapsed, gasping for air. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some cursed, but none could deny what they had seen. Serenia's voice was firm, though her eyes betrayed surprise. "He has passed the gate of endurance. The gate of loyalty," the third gate, opened, and this time David felt his heart tighten. Inside the chamber were illusions, visions crafted from his memories. He saw his old squad, men he had fought beside, brothers he had lost. They were alive again, calling to him, begging him to stay. "Don't leave us, David," one said. "You can't abandon your family." Another whispered. Tears filled his eyes. His heart ached. For a moment, he almost stepped toward them. But then he remembered they were gone. They had died long ago. This was not real. This was a test. His gaze shifted, and he saw another vision. An Amazon warrior, one of those, who had silently supported him on the ship. She was kneeling, wounded, surrounded by enemies. "Help me," she cried. David's choice was clear. He turned his back on the illusions of his past and ran to her. As he reached out his hand, the vision shattered and the chamber dissolved into light. The crowd was silent again. Serenia stood, her voice louder than ever. "He has passed the gate of loyalty." The aftermath. David stumbled out of the final. gait, his body covered in cuts, his clothes torn, his face pale with exhaustion, but his eyes still burned with fire. He had survived, he had endured, he had proven himself. The Amazons stood in stunned silence. Some bowed their heads. Others clenched their fists in frustration. But no one could deny it anymore. The human had done what no alien male had ever done. Sirenia looked down at him, her voice softer than before. "You are more than we believed, David Hale. You are truly chosen, but beware. Passing the trials is only the beginning." David wiped blood from his face, his voice hoarse but steady. "I didn't come here to be your hero. I came here to survive, and I will." The drums beat louder, the stars above burned brighter, and the legend of the human chosen one began to spread across the galaxy. The trials had ended, but the echoes of David's victory still rolled through the Amazon world like thunder. For the first time in their long history, a male had passed every test. Songs were not sung, but whispers carried through the streets, through the towers, through the sacred halls of the Amazon Council. Some Amazons praised him, others despised him. But none ignored him. David stood on a high balcony of the Amazon citadel, looking out across their strange world. Twin suns burned above, casting long golden shadows. Forests shimmered silver in the distance, and statues of warrior queens looked down on him with stone eyes. He felt like an intruder in a world that was not his. Beside him, High Warlord Sirenia stood silent. Her golden armor glowed faintly in the fading light. "You have proven yourself," she said at last. "The trials were not designed for you to survive, and yet you did." David looked at her. His face was tired, his body still aching, but his eyes were sharp. "Why test me like this?" he asked. "Why not just take my blood, my genes, and be done with it? Why drag me through illusions and beasts and fire?" Sirenia turned her gaze away from him, her jaw tightening. For a moment, David thought she would not answer. But then she said, "Because strength is not only in flesh, it is in choice. Our people cannot risk weakness. The one we choose must be more than a body. It must be unbreakable." Her words sounded noble, but David heard something else in her tone, hesitation, a shadow. He felt she was not telling him everything. The divided council that night, David, was taken before the Amazon High Council. The chamber was vast, lit by fire and glowing crystals. 12 Amazons sat in a circle, each wearing armor more ancient and decorated than the last. Their eyes pierced him as if measuring his soul. Sirenia stood at the center, announcing his success. "The human has passed all trials. No other male has ever done so. By our laws, he is worthy." Murmurs rose among the council. Some nodded, others shook their heads. Finally, an Amazon elder stood. Her hair was silver, her face lined with years. Of command, her name was Valora. Her voice was like a blade. "Worthy? He is a man. A small man from a small world. We are Amazon's warriors of the flame. To bring him into our bloodline is to risk everything. What if his strength is a trick? What if his weakness destroys us?"
Another
Counselor spoke, her eyes burning with anger. "Yes, he's human. His kind is young, untested among the stars. Why should we mix his blood with ours?" But then another rose, younger, fierce and proud. "Did you not see him fight the beasts? Did you not see him walk through the gravity that crushed others? Did you not see him turn from false visions to save one of our own? He is stronger than you admit, perhaps stronger than we are." The chamber broke into argument. Voices clashed like swords. Some called him a blessing, others a curse. David stood in silence, watching. He had been in war councils before, listening to commanders argue about battles. But this was different. These were not debates about land or power. This was about his life, his very blood. Secrets in the shadows after the council, David was led through the halls of the citadel. 2 guards walked behind him, silent and stern. But as they passed a dark corridor, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was an Amazon, tall, with piercing green eyes and dark braided hair. Her armor was simpler than the others, her face less proud but more human. She looked at him quickly, then motioned with her hand. Come with me, quietly. The guards moved to stop her, but she raised her wrist, showing a mark of authority. Reluctantly, they obeyed and stepped aside. David followed her into the shadows.
How?
They entered a small chamber lit only by fire. She turned to him, her expression fierce. My name is Lyara. I am not like the others, and you need to know the truth. David crossed his arms, wary but listening. What truth? Lyara's voice lowered. They say they chose you for your strength. They say you are to bring new life to our people. But that is not all. There are prophecies, David, ancient writings older than our empire, they speak of. A man from another world. A man whose blood would bring either salvation or destruction. David's stomach tightened. So I'm not just here as a breeding choice. I'm here because of a prophecy. Lyara nodded. But not all Amazons agree on what the prophecy means. Some believe you will save us. Others believe you will destroy us. And some would rather kill you now, before either can happen. David felt a cold weight settle on his chest. He had fought enemies he could see, men with guns, machines of war. But this was different. These were enemies hidden in shadows, wearing friendly faces. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Lyra's eyes softened, just slightly. Gez, I do not believe you are our doom. I watched you in the trials. You fought not for pride, not for glory, but to survive. That is strength, true strength, and she hesitated. And because if I do not warn you, you will not live long enough to face what is coming. A dangerous game that night. David could not sleep. He sat by the balcony, staring at the twin moons in the sky. His body still ached, but it was his mind that felt heavy. He remembered Lyra's words, prophecy, salvation, destruction, had his Serenia's silence, her half-truths. Heard his half-truths, he had thought of the council's arguments, their fear, their pride. The Amazons did not all want him alive. Some wanted him dead. If he stayed blind, he would not survive long. David clenched his fists. He had been a soldier long enough to know one thing. In war, the enemy was not always the one who attacked openly. The most dangerous enemy was the one smiling at your side, the whisper of revolt in the deepest halls of the citadel. Far from David's ears, several Amazons gathered in secret. Valora, the elder who despised him, stood at the center. Her voice was low but sharp. This human is a threat. Serenia is blinded by her obsession with prophecy. If he lives, he will twist our people. If he breeds with us, his blood will taint us. We cannot allow it. The others nodded, their faces grim. Then what do we do? One asked. Valara's eyes burned with cold fire. We end him, quietly. Before the prophecy can take root, the council will never know. Serenia will never admit her failure. The galaxy will never hear his name. In that moment, the fate of David Hale balanced on a knife's edge. Closing suspense, David, unaware of the plot against him, finally lay down to rest. His eyes closed, but his mind did not. He whispered into the night, "What do you really want from me?" Above him, the statues of ancient queens seemed to watch in silence. Somewhere deep in the citadel, enemies moved in shadows. Heart of prophecy. The line between savior and destroyer blurred. The hidden motives of the Amazons were beginning to reveal themselves. And David's survival would soon depend on more than strength. It would depend on trust, betrayal, and choices that could shape an empire. The days after the council were heavy with silence. David Hale had passed the trials, but instead of victory, he felt the weight of invisible chains. He walked through the grand halls of the citadel with guards always at his side, watched by eyes that judged him with every step. Some Amazons glared at him with open hatred, others with cold curiosity. Yet among those countless eyes, there was one gaze that felt different, one that did not see him as a prisoner or a weapon, or a prophecy. Her name was Lyara, the Amazon who had warned him of the prophecy and the danger that surrounded him. She was younger than most warriors, but her presence was no less fierce. Her green eyes carried a storm, but when she looked at David, there was something else too, something warmer, something almost human, a secret meeting one night. After the twin suns had set and the citadel was quiet, David heard a soft knock. At his chamber door, when it opened, Liara slipped inside like a shadow. "You should not be here," David said quietly. His voice was firm, but his heart quickened. "And you should not be alive," she replied, closing the door behind her. "There are whispers in the council. Plans are moving against you. Laura and her followers want you gone." "Tonight? Tomorrow? It does not matter. They will strike soon." David's jaw tightened. "So I'm still a target, even after your trials?" Liara nodded. "You are not one of us. You never will be. Not in their eyes. To them, you are a danger, a curse wrapped. In prophecy, if they cannot control you, they will destroy you." David sighed and sat down on the edge of the stone bench. His muscles still ached from the trials, but his spirit remained unbroken. "Then why are you helping me? Why risk your life for a human?" Liara hesitated. Her armor glinted in the firelight, her strong frame casting a long shadow across the chamber. "Because I saw you fight. I saw you bleed, and yet you did not yield. You fight not only for yourself, but for something greater. I cannot explain it, but—" her voice lowered. "I believe in you." David looked at her for a long moment. Her words cut deeper than any weapon. In war, men believed in their comrades, their commanders, their cause, but never had anyone, especially not someone like her, spoken such belief in him. Crossing the line, they began to meet in secret, sometimes in hidden corridors, sometimes in quiet corners of the citadels, gardens, sometimes in the training grounds when others slept. Liara trained with him, teaching him the ways of Amazon combat. She showed him how to wield their weapons of light, how to read the movements of their warriors, how to stand against giants without breaking. And in return, David told her of Earth, of simple fields, of forests, of oceans that stretched forever, of laughter around fires, of brothers who stood shoulder to shoulder in battles they knew they might not survive. He spoke of pain, yes, but also of humanity's heart. The more they spoke, the closer they grew. At first, it was respect a warrior to a warrior, but slowly, without either admitting it, something else began to grow. A quiet connection, a bond forbidden by Amazon law. For Amazon's men were not equals. They were subjects, tools, chosen. Only for bloodlines. To feel for one was dangerous, even traitorous. But Liara could not stop herself. And David, though hardened by years of war, could not deny what stirred in him when she looked at him not as prey, not as prophecy, but as a man. The risk. One evening, as they sparred in the training grounds, their weapons clashed, sparks of light flying between them. David moved with surprising speed, ducking under her strike and sweeping her legs. She fell, landing hard on her back. He dropped the weapon and reached out his hand to help her up. For a moment, their hands touched. The air grew heavy, the silence deep. Her eyes locked with his, and in that second, the walls of law and duty seemed to fall away. But the moment broke when footsteps echoed nearby. Liara pulled her hand back quickly, standing tall. A group of Amazons passed, giving them suspicious looks. David could feel the tension in the air. He knew what those looks meant. When they were gone, Liara whispered sharply, "You must be careful. They see what is between us." David's voice was steady. "Then they'll kill us both." She did not answer. But the truth was already clear. The bond revealed that night, Serenia summoned David. The High Warlord's golden eyes studied him carefully. "You have grown close to Liara," she said, her tone sharp. David froze. His mind raced. Did she know? Had someone told her? "Trains you," Serenia continued. "She speaks with you more than others. I warn you, human bonds with my warriors are dangerous. They weaken resolve. They bend loyalty. Do not mistake kindness for acceptance." David held her gaze. "And what if it is not weakness?" he asked quietly. "What if it makes us stronger?" For the first time, Serenia's face hardened. Her voice dropped to a whisper like steel. "Strength comes from discipline, not from softness. If Liara has forgotten this, then perhaps she is unfit to be Amazon." David's fists clenched, but he said nothing. Saranya dismissed him with a wave of her hand. When he returned to his chamber, Liara was waiting. He told her what Saranya had said. Her face went pale, but her eyes blazed. "They will come for me," she said softly. "They will strip me of rank, of honor, maybe even my life. Because of this," she looked at him, her voice breaking slightly, "because of what I feel for you." David stepped closer. His voice was firm, unshaken. "Then we fight together, whatever happens. I will not let them break us." For a moment, the walls of the chamber faded. The weight of the empire vanished. There was only them, a human soldier and an alien warrior, bound by something neither law nor prophecy could explain. Closing suspense outside, the Amazons whispered, their suspicions growing. The bond between David and Liara was no longer fully established. Hidden, eyes watched, ears listened, and enemies planned. In the shadows of the citadel, Valora sharpened her blade. "He grows too close to her," she said coldly. "This cannot continue. They will not destroy him, I will." Inside his chamber, David looked out at the alien stars. Beside him, Liara stood silent, her hand brushing against his. Both knew the truth. Their bond was forbidden, but it could turn away now, and in that dangerous closeness, the fate of both their worlds began to change. The Amazon citadel never truly slept. Even at night, fires burned in the high towers, and warriors patrolled the marble halls. Yet that night carried a different weight. Shadows stretched longer, whispers moved quicker, and something unseen lingered. In the air, the promise of betrayal, David Hale felt it. He stood on the balcony of his chamber, looking at the alien stars above. The silence pressed against him, heavy and unnatural. His instincts, sharpened from years of war, screamed that danger was near. Behind him, Liara entered quietly. She had removed her armor, dressed only in simple dark cloth, her long braid resting against her shoulder. Her eyes searched the skies, then him. "You feel it too," she whispered. David nodded. "They won't wait much longer. Valora wants me dead, and she won't stop until she tries." Lyra's jaw tightened. "If they come for you, they'll come for me too. We broke their law, David. You are not just a threat to their bloodline. You are a threat to their pride." He looked at her, his voice calm but firm. "Then we fight. Together." The betrayal unfolds. The attack came sooner than either expected. Just before midnight, the torches in the hall outside his chamber flickered. The guards who were usually posted there were gone. David's chest tightened. He grabbed the short Amazon. Blade Liara had given him. The first explosion shook the tower. The walls cracked, fire spilled through the doorway, and armored figures stormed in. They were Amazons, but not Saranya's chosen guard. These were Valara's loyalists, their armor marked with her sigil. "Kill him," their leader hissed, "and bring the traitor with him." Liara drew her weapon in a flash of light. "David, stay close." The clash was immediate and brutal. Blades of light cut through the smoke, sparks rained across the chamber. David fought with raw instinct, his blade clashing against weapons designed for giants. Every strike rattled his bones. But he moved with the same stubborn will that had carried him through wars on Earth. One Amazon swung down with a heavy strike. David blocked, his arm shaking from the force. He countered with a stab to her side, forcing her back. Another came at him, but Liara intercepted, her blade spinning in a deadly arc. They fought back to back, human and Amazon, moving as one. The attackers had strength, but David had something they did not: the will to survive against impossible odds. The fall of blood, the battle spread into the corridors. Flames licked the walls as more Amazons joined the ambush. David and Liara pushed forward, step by step, cutting through enemies with desperate strikes. But the numbers were against them. A blade sliced across David's shoulder, blood spilling down his arm. He stumbled, but Liara pulled him back, slashing her enemy aside. "You can't fall now," she shouted. David gritted his teeth, raising his blade again. "I've fallen before. I've always stood back up." They reached the grand hall, but Valora herself was waiting. The elder Amazon stood tall, her silver hair shining, her weapon glowing like a star. Enough burned with fury. "Enough," she roared. ends tonight. No human will defile our blood. No traitor will disgrace our people, she charged. Her first strike sent Liara crashing into a pillar, her weapon flying from her hands. David barely blocked the second strike, the force nearly breaking his arm. He staggered, his blade trembling. Valara's strength was overwhelming. She moved like a storm, every swing of her weapon shattering stone and fire. David fought desperately, dodging, blocking, countering when he could. But he was only human. His arms grew heavy, his body burned with pain. Valora sneered, pressing him down. You were never worthy. You are nothing but fragile flesh. Your kind belongs in chains, not in prophecy. David's legs buckled. His blade slipped from his hands. For a moment, it seemed over, the spark of defiance. But then Liara's voice cut through the chaos. David, stand. Deep within him, the memory of every battle he had fought, every brother he had lost, every time he had refused to die, he reached down, grabbing a shard of broken stone. As Valora swung for the killing blow, David rolled to the side, slamming the shard into her knee. She roared in pain, staggering. Seizing the moment, David lunged for his blade, rising with a fury that shocked even Valora. This is who I am, he growled. Not prophecy, not blood, just a man who doesn't break. He slashed upward, cutting. Through Valara's weapon arm, sparks flew, her blade shattered, and she fell to her knees with a cry of rage. The hall fell silent. Amazons who had followed her froze, stunned by the sight of their elder defeated by a human. David stood over her, blood dripping down his body, his chest heaving. He could kill her now, end her threat forever. But he lowered his blade instead. I'm not your enemy, he said, but if you force me to be, I will fight until the last breath. The aftermath, Liara staggered to his side, supporting herself against the pillar. Her eyes widened as she looked at him, battered, bleeding, but unbroken. Valara's loyalists hesitated, then retreated, dragging their wounded elder away. The fires dimmed, the clash ended, leaving only silence and smoke. David leaned against the wall, exhaustion crashing down on him. Liara placed her hand on his shoulder, her voice trembling. You should be dead. No human should have survived this. He managed a faint smile. That's what they all say, and yet here I am. For the first time, Liora's hand lingered on his. In that broken hall, surrounded by blood and fire, their forbidden bond burned brighter than ever. But David knew the truth. This was only the beginning. The ambush had failed, but it had changed everything. The Amazons could no longer hide their divisions. The prophecy was no longer just whispers, and he was no longer just a chosen one. He was a threat, a symbol, and perhaps a leader. Closing suspense at dawn. Serenia stood in the ruins of the hall, her eyes scanning the destruction. She looked at David, who stood with his blade at his side, blood drying on his skin. You have changed the game, she said softly. They will no longer see you as a tool. They will see you as a rival, challenger to everything we are. David met her gaze, his voice steady. Then let them. I didn't come here to be your prisoner. I came here to survive. If survival means changing your world, then so be it. The war within the Amazons had begun. The battle in the Grand Hall changed everything. Whispers of the ambush spread across the Amazon world like wildfire. Some called David Hale a miracle, others a curse. Many could not believe their own eyes, a human, small compared to their towering forms, had stood against Valora, one of the most feared elders, and survived. For the first time in centuries, the Amazons were divided. The silent city. David walked through the citadel the next morning, his body still aching, his wounds wrapped in rough bandages. Wherever he went, eyes followed him. Some Amazons looked at him with quiet respect, others with burning hatred. No one looked away. Beside him, Liara moved with silent strength, her hand never far from her weapon. She knew what he did, that another attack could come at any time. But the city itself felt different now. Warriors who once mocked David now whispered his name in awe. Others spat when he passed. The air was heavy with conflict like the moments before a storm. David did not care for their stares. He had lived through war before, where men judged him, doubted him, and yet relied on him when the bullets fell. He knew one truth: respect was never given, it was earned. And he had earned it with blood. The confrontation of the High Council, gathered once again. Their great chamber glowing with fire and crystal light, Serenia stood at the center, her golden eyes sharp as blades. David and Liara stood. Behind her, facing the circle of elders, Valora entered last, her arm bound, her steps slower than before. Her face was twisted with anger, but her voice was steady. "This human is poison," she declared. "He divides us. He weakens us. If we let him remain, he will destroy everything we are." Shouts erupted across the chamber. Some elders agreed, their voices calling for David's death. Others shouted back, reminding them of the trials he had passed, the ambush he had survived. Serenia raised her hand, silencing them all. "David Hale's not poison," she said. "He is proof that strength is not bound by flesh or world or law. He stood against beasts, against fire, against gravity that would have crushed any other. He stood against Valora herself, and he still stands now." Our words cut through the chamber. But Valara's voice struck back, bitter and sharp. "He stands only because prophecy demands it. Do you not see? He is not salvation. He's the doom we were warned of." The chamber shook with argument, voices clashing louder than steel. And in that storm of words, David stepped forward. David speaks for the first time. He addressed the council directly. His voice was tired, rough, but filled with an iron calm that silenced even the loudest elder. "You speak of me as if I am a weapon, as if I am a curse, but I am neither. I am just a man who has bled, lost, and survived." His eyes moving from one elder to another. "You say I am prophecy? Maybe I am. Maybe I am not. But I know this: I did not fight your beasts to prove myself. I did not endure your trials to win your pride. I did it because I do not know how. To do anything else but stand? That is what humans are. That is what I am." The chamber fell into silence. Even Valora said nothing. David's voice softened, but carried deeper. "If you fear me, then kill me. If you doubt me, then test me again. But if you believe me even a little, then let me stand with you, not above you, not beneath you, but beside you." His words echoed in the chamber long after he stopped speaking. The division breaks the council did not vote that night, but outside the chamber, the Amazons began to change. Some who had doubted him now saw him differently. Warriors who once sneered at him now trained in silence, remembering his defiance. But the enemies he made were no less dangerous. Valora and her followers still whispered in secret planning, waiting for the chance to end him once and for all. Liara stayed at his side, her presence both a shield and a risk. Their bond was no longer a secret. It was spoken in whispers across the citadel. Some Amazons called it betrayal, others called it hope, but none denied its power. The final test weeks passed, and tension grew. Then one night Serenia came to David. Her face was harder than stone. "There is one last trial," she said. "Not of our design, but of fate. A rival empire comes enemies who have waited centuries to strike us. They know of you, David. They come to destroy you, to break our prophecy before it begins." David's eyes narrowed. "Then let them come." The invasion fell upon the Amazon world like a storm. Ships darkened the skies, weapons rained fire across the silver forests. For the first time in centuries, the Amazons faced a war greater than themselves. And in the center of it all stood David Hale, blade in hand, Liara at his side. He fought not as a prisoner, not as a tool, but as a warrior of their people. The Amazons watched him lead charges, shield the wounded, and stand against enemies twice his size. Every time he fell, he rose again. Every time death reached for him, he pushed it back. By the time the enemy fleet broke and fled, the ground was soaked with blood, and David was still standing. The legacy: when the war ended, the Amazons gathered once more. The council looked upon David not with suspicion, not with doubt, but with respect. Even Valara's voice was silent. Serena spoke, her voice carrying. Across the chamber, prophecies fulfilled. But not as we expected. The strongest genes in the galaxy are not only in his blood. They are in his will, his courage, his heart. Humanity has given us more than strength. It has given us a future. The Amazons bowed. Not all, but enough. And for the first time, in their long history, they bowed to a man. David stood tall, battered and scarred, but unbroken. Liara stood beside him, her hand brushing his. Their bond, once forbidden, was no longer hidden. It was the symbol of something greater, unity between two worlds. And though he had never asked for it, David Hale became a legend, not just among Amazons, not just among humans, but across the stars. Closing Suspense's twin suns rose over the silver forests. David looked out from the Citadel balcony. The world was quiet, the fires of war fading into smoke. He felt Liara beside him, her presence steady. "I never wanted to be chosen," he said softly. Liara smiled faintly. "Maybe that is why you were," David nodded, his eyes fixed on the horizon. Whatever the future held, peace, war, love, or loss, he knew one thing. His legacy was no longer just survival. It was change. And across the galaxy, the name of the human who refused to break would never be forgotten.